In the 1980s, Peru had one of the best women's volleyball teams in the world. At the Seoul Olympics in 1988, they reached the final, where they were to face the formidable Soviets. Despite taking place at 6:30 a.m. Peruvian time, almost the entire nation were glued to their TVs back home. Having won the first two sets, the Peruvians were leading 12-6 in the third. The stage was set for a massive upset.
The thing was that we'd been training together since we were girls, from the age of 13, pre-juniors. From then, we played as South American juniors, and so we already knew the fundamentals, the technique. We were like family. We'd known each other since childhood, so everyone knew how everyone else played. We really were united when we went onto a court.
But the Soviet Union rallied. Their coach, Nikolai Karpol, made 3 substitutions. They won the third set, 15-13, and the next 15-7.
Our coach got nervous, and from that moment, the Soviets started winning. And they beat us in that set. They beat us in the next one, and then in the last one we picked up a bit. But by then it was too late. But it was a great match.
The epic 5th set saw both sides take the initiative. Peru even led 15-14 at one stage. But victory went to the Soviets, 17-15. So drained was some of their players that medical personnel had to rush on court at the end to revive them.
Yes, perhaps it was down to a lack of concentration on all of our parts. And when we lost that third set, we weren't able to recover, and the game slipped out of our hands. Losing that match, those Olympic Games, was a real tragedy.
Winning the silver medal was one of the biggest achievements for Peruvian sport. The country's only gold medal had come 40 years earlier in free pistol shooting. Despite the defeat, the volleyball players were hailed as sporting heroes at home and made every girl in the country want to take up the sport. Volleyball experienced a major boom after Seoul and became the country's biggest sport after football. But 20 years on, it's a different story. Peru's women's volleyball team has failed to qualify for Beijing and hasn't had a significant success since their star players retired in the early 1990s. The big question is, what's gone wrong?
That's what we've been asking ourselves. Why didn't the previous management bother to develop new talent or work on the technique in particular? They were only winning matches with the team they had at the time and not developing the talent of a new generation to take over from them. This is what we're doing now. We're making changes year on year. We've been going now for 6 years, and we've made a lot of changes in that time.
Peru has experienced much political upheaval in its recent past, along with economic problems, drug trafficking issues, violent insurgency, and widespread corruption. Some things have improved, but the country is still trying to catch up with its past. A small white minority continues to control most of the wealth and political power, while over 40% of Peruvians live below the poverty line. Sports like volleyball don't feature too highly on the government's agenda.
The Federation took 2 very big decisions. One was to hire José Francisco dos Santos. He's very experienced, and the first thing he asked was that the girls train morning, noon and night, and that they choose volleyball as a career, in the same way that they choose medicine or engineering.
Head coach Chico dos Santos used to be the technical assistant of the Brazilian men's and women's teams. Volleyball is a major sport in Brazil, and selecting talent is only made difficult because so many play the game. In Peru, however, just 15,000 girls play, so finding a player who has what it takes is a much harder task.
We need to select many more girls. For us, it's too soon to talk about talent. I think you develop talent when you reach 18. Right now, we must talk about work and technical and physical preparation. It's too early to talk about talent.
And it's not just talent that the management are looking out for. Another challenge is to find tall girls. The average height of Peruvian women is 1 metre 65 centimetres. For the players of the national volleyball team, it's 1 metre 78. In Brazil, the players average 193, and in many other teams around the world, they reach beyond 195.
The girls are not properly fed, and that's the main concern of the Peruvian Federation. So much so that they have a house where all the girls live and eat better food, because it's a very poor country. So the idea the Peruvian Federation has is to get as many players as possible living in that big house, so they can sleep well, study well, and most important of all, eat well.
The project started last year, and although the house has room for 60 occupants, only 14 girls are currently living there. It costs $2,500 American per girl per month. At least the house came free. It belonged to an arms dealer and was confiscated by the government and later given to the Federation. Sadly, it took the locals some time to warm to their new neighbours.
Some of the residents in this area, which is the most affluent in Peru, didn't want this to happen because the girls were mixed race, black and poor, and they were worried that they might bring some sort of virus to the area. However, nowadays, they're all really proud to have the girls here.
Being part of the project is an incredible opportunity for each of the girls. Apart from daily training sessions and being looked after around the clock, they have the opportunity to study gratis at a good school. A 14-year-old Clariveti Jescas from Lima is one of the top players in her age group. But she doesn't live at the house. She prefers to live at home with her family.
I don't think this kind of opportunity presents itself to girls all the time. So if it happens to you, you have to take advantage of it as much as you can.
Clariveti is expecting a great future when she joins the national team in a few years' time. For the time being, though, she's happy to help out with her chores at home.
Yeah, it was my mum who enrolled me in the academy, an academy where they teach you the principles, the basics. Then I was spotted by a man, the director of my club. He picked me for his squad, got me going, and that's how I started. I didn't know anything then, but now, well, here I am.
Clariveti plays for Divino Maestro, one of the strongest clubs in the country. There are nearly 1,000 clubs in Peru. Apart from the 15,000 girls under 18, it's estimated that a further 10,000 women regularly play competitive volleyball. That's still not enough to build a strong national team at the moment, but the work is underway to return Peruvian volleyball to its former glory.
Our objective is to qualify the team for the next World Championship in 2 years' time. Then also the London Olympic Games in 2012. All of our work is geared towards those goals.
Following in the footsteps of the great players from the 1980s and 90s hasn't been easy, but at least now the Peruvian Federation is on track to build a new super team for the future.